My name is Walter Emmett Greer, and I'm 77 years old. I've been sitting in this chair for about 20 minutes now, trying to decide whether to say this out loud or just let it stay where it's been living, somewhere behind my sternum, quiet and heavy, for longer than I care to count. I don't know who will hear this. Maybe nobody. Maybe that's fine. I was never a distracted man. That's the thing I want you to understand first. I didn't think of myself that way. I paid my bills on time. I showed up to work. I remembered birthdays, most of them. I was present, I thought. I was there. I was there in the room. I just wasn't always there in the room, if you understand what I mean by that. My son's name is Daniel. He's 49 now, lives out in Oregon with his wife and 2 kids I've met maybe 6 times. We talk on the phone, not often. When we do, it's polite. It's the kind of conversation where both people are waiting for it to be over, not because they dislike each other, but because they've forgotten how to begin. That's not something that happened overnight. That's something that was built, slowly, the way a wall gets built, 1 brick a year, so gradual you don't notice until you're standing on one side of it, wondering when it got so tall. Daniel was 7 when he went through a phase where he collected things, rocks mostly, little ones. He kept them in a shoebox under his bed, and every few weeks he'd bring the box out to the kitchen table and lay each one out like he was presenting something important. He'd name them, not silly names, considered names. He'd say, "This one's from the creek near Grandma's house, and this one has a vein of something silver. I think it might be special." I remember looking at him across the table one evening while he did this, and I remember thinking, I need to finish reading those reports before morning. I looked back down at my papers. He kept talking. I said, at the right moments. He put the rocks back in the box. I don't think I ever asked him a single question about those rocks, not one. I told myself it was a phase. It was. He moved on to other things, baseball cards for a while, then drawing. Then, when he was about 12, he started writing, little stories in spiral notebooks he kept in his room. Once, and I remember this clearly now in a way I didn't then, he left one of those notebooks on the kitchen counter, open. I don't know if it was an accident. I walked past it 3 times that morning. I didn't read it. I thought, that's his private thing. I'm respecting his space. I moved the notebook to the edge of the counter so it wouldn't get coffee spilled on it. That's the most attention I gave it. He never left a notebook out again after that. I didn't notice that either. Not then. There was a woman before his mother. Her name was Miriam. We were together for almost 4 years in our mid-20s, and she left me, gently, the way kind people leave, because she said I had a way of being in a conversation without being in it. She said it without anger. She said, "Walter, I talk to you, and I feel like I'm talking to the back of someone's head." I laughed it off. I told my friend Carl about it, and we both laughed, the way young men laugh at things that are actually diagnoses. I thought she was being dramatic. I thought she wanted too much. I married someone else, Patricia, Daniel's mother, and Patricia was a quieter woman, more patient, and she learned early to not need me to look up, or maybe she just accepted it. I was never sure which. We were married for 22 years. She didn't leave dramatically either. She just got smaller and smaller in our house, and one day she sat across from me at dinner and said,
"I don't think you've asked me a single question in 3 months." I said, "That can't be right." She said, "What did I do last Tuesday?" I didn't know. I genuinely didn't know. Patricia and I separated when Daniel was 16. I want to be honest about something here, because that's the only reason I'm recording this. I thought the separation would hurt Daniel more than it did, and when it didn't, when he seemed to absorb it, adapt, go quiet, and keep going, I felt something I'm ashamed of now. I felt relieved. I told myself he was resilient, that boys his age were tough, that he was handling it well. I didn't ask him how he was handling it. I assumed, and assumption, I've learned, is just another word for not looking up. He came to stay with me on weekends. We had a system. I'd pick him up Saturday mornings, and we'd stop for breakfast, always the same diner, the one on Clement Street with the green booths, and I'd ask about school, and he'd answer, and I'd ask about his friends, and he'd answer, and then I'd run out of questions, and we'd sit there with our eggs, and I'd read the newspaper. Not all of it, just the sports section usually, but still, he was 16 years old and sitting across from his father, and I was reading the newspaper. He never complained. He ate his eggs. He looked out the window. I think about that window a lot now, what he was looking at, what he was thinking, what was moving through a 16-year-old boy who had just watched his family come apart and was sitting across from a father who was reading about last night's game. I don't know what was moving through him. I never asked. He stopped writing in notebooks around that time. I know this only because his mother mentioned it years later, offhand, in a conversation about something else entirely. She said, "He used to write constantly, you know, stopped around 16, never really went back to it." I said, "I didn't know that." She looked at me for a moment. She didn't say anything else. There were moments, I want to be fair to myself, if that's still allowed. There were moments I tried. His 18th birthday, I took him to a baseball game, just the two of us. It was a good game. We talked, laughed even a few times. I remember driving home thinking, we're okay, we're going to be okay. He moved to Oregon 3 months later, not for school, just to go. He said he had a friend out there. I said, "Okay, let me know when you're settled." He did. He sent a postcard. I put it on the refrigerator. It stayed there for 2 years, and then I moved, and I don't know what happened to it. I'm not telling you this because I think I was a monster. I don't think I was. I think I was something quieter and more common than that. I think I was a man who believed that presence was the same as attention, and that providing was the same as connecting, and that because I never missed a birthday or school event or Saturday breakfast, I was doing the thing. I was doing the thing. I just wasn't doing the other thing. The thing that doesn't have a name exactly. The thing where you put down what you're holding and you look at the person in front of you as if they're the only thing in the room, as if what they're about to say is the thing you've been waiting for your whole life to hear. I didn't do that. Not enough. Maybe not ever.